little worried about what happens if somebody's washing the coasters with really hot water. What happens if you put a really hot mug on top? These are the kind of things that I have to be aware of, right, if I'm going to be selling them. So I thought I'd do a quick little experiment to test that. So I have some really hot water in here in the bottom of my sink, and I have two different coasters here. One was made with, let me see which one's which. This one was made with art resin, the pink is art resin, and this one was made with magic resin. Now, I find they're both very good quality. They work great for this purpose for making coasters. The big difference that I find between the two is that the magic resin cures a lot faster and sometimes a little bit harder, although the art resin's pretty good, and the art resin takes a lot longer to get that solid cure. So far that's the main difference I've found between the two, but I'm going to drop them both in there. I have noticed sometimes if I put a hot mug on top of some of the coasters, it will get a little bit more malleable, and sometimes I see some indents if the mug is really hot, but so far I've found that those indents go away. So let me grab a mug quickly. Okay, so this one is nice and heavy, so when those coasters come out, we'll have a look and see what happens. So we'll put them down here. There we go. Okay, so we'll let them sit in there for a little bit. Typically when I sell my coasters, I do tell people to wash them with warm water, not too hot, and just that to be aware that the hot mugs or even a hot sunny day can make them a little bit more malleable. But in my experience, this hasn't caused any damage or anything. So we'll give it a test today. Let's see. So far, as you can see, really malleable. So I'll leave them in there a little bit longer. Magic resin also very malleable, same thing. I want to see if they'll actually break. Now I want to take my hot mug and rest that on top and see what happens. And I even have the same mug here, so I can do the same with the magic resin, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so it has been about 5, maybe 10 minutes now, and I want to see what happens. So let's remove. So this is the art resin, and now the coaster has almost gone back to full hardness, but if you can see, there is a bit of an indent from the mug, and that's just from putting the coaster in hot water and then resting the mug, not even full, just empty, on it for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now I'm curious to see if that goes away now that I take the mug off. Let's see, magic resin, dry it off. Same thing, still a little bit soft, but getting much harder. And that also has an indent from the cup. So let's give it a couple more minutes, see if they go back to normal. If not, I'm gonna put them back in the hot water and see if that brings them back to normal. Okay, so it's been about another 5 to 10 minutes, and I've been waiting to see if my coasters have gotten any better since I took the mugs off and let them sit, and I would say that they've gotten a little better. So this one still has marks. It's only been about not even 10 minutes, a little more than 5, maybe 6 or 7 minutes. And that coaster looks much better. It's not perfect still though. You can still see the cut marks on there, the circle. So I want to see now if the hot water helps. So let's give it a try here. Looks like it's helping. Wow. That's amazing. Look at this. It's wet. Let me dry it off. Oh my goodness. Perfectly smooth coaster. No cut marks at all. let's see this one. Same thing. Let's see if it works for both types of resin. This one was art resin. The blue in my hand is magic resin. Wow, that's incredible. Still a little wet, but no more cut marks. Pretty cool. So if that's anybody's worry about cut marks on coasters, especially because a lot of people are going to want to use their coasters with hot beverages like coffee and tea. If that happens, just tell your customers to put the coaster under hot water for 5 to 10 seconds and they'll be gone. Okay, now I want to see if they will break. So I'm going to put them back in the water for a little bit and then we're going to try to break. Okay, so coasters have been in the water for about another 5 minutes and they are nice and malleable. Something that I realized while doing this is that if you've watched my other videos or if you follow me on Instagram, then you'll know that I cut the edges of my coasters. So when the edges are jaggedy like this, when they come out of the mold, they're not perfect, see like that. I want to cut them so that they look like stone, and I don't want them to be jaggedy and irregular like that. I want them to be irregular, but not weird points like that. So I would typically cut the coasters, but my big thing before was that I wouldn't be able to cut them after they got too hard because it was just way too hard to cut them. So I realized that if I put them in hot water, then they get malleable again, so I'm able to cut the edges really easily. Simple. So there's another tip if you also cut the edges of your coasters. If your coaster has gotten too hard, just soak it in some hot water for a little bit. But I did want to see if they would break. So this one is art resin. And I want to see if it'll break. Really doesn't look like it's breaking. Is it? Doesn't seem like it. Nope. So, I mean, I wouldn't recommend anybody to take their nice coasters that they just bought and try to soak them in hot water and break them, but at least, you know, even when they get really malleable, they're probably not going to break. Nope. Nothing. And I wonder what happens then if you bend it, if it goes back into shape. Well, this one definitely did, especially because I put it in the hot water. It's perfectly flat again. And this one looks like it's back to normal too. Pretty cool, guys. All right, well, that was my experiment. Now I've learned that I can cut the edges of my coasters after they've already gotten too hard and I think I can't cut them. Turns out I still can. And I think that was a pretty good experiment. See you guys.